Hello, happy Saturday. I am just hanging out here waiting for our special guest authors to arrive. So while we're doing that, you guys can all say hello in the chat. I see Jack has said hello, Suzanne, Kevin, Black Market Leadership in Scottsdale, Arizona. Hey, I know your face. And Darla, they're all here. Hello and welcome. Yeah, so right now it's a little strange, but none of my authors have arrived. So I don't know, Angela, if you can check on it. I don't know if people are having technical difficulties, but Angela was able to arrive. She's hanging out in backstage, so not totally sure. But in the meantime, and we also have Let Fear Bounce, tossing out nuggets of hope. Welcome. In the meantime, a couple updates for you. I prepped a video shoot and did a video shoot yesterday. And for that, I think, pretty successfully cloned my voice and have been able to. I haven't finished producing the audiobook version of More Than Cashflow, my very first book, but I started and I have 4 chapters done and they sound pretty darn good. I let my husband listen to it and he listened and he was like, "Is that you?" So he wasn't sure. So it's really good. He was not certain that it was not me. So it's not 100%, but I'm not trying to clone my voice so that it passes off 100% as me. I just want it to be a good listening experience. So that's kind of cool. So I shot a video that will be coming out probably in May, that walks you through how I cloned my voice and how you can produce an audiobook, with the tools that I did. And the cool part is that you can't sell it. So the uncool part is you can't sell it on Audible or any of those places right now, but you can, upload it to BookFunnel and sell it on your website and sell it and give it away for free if you want, or whatever you want to do with it. And there are some platforms that you can supposedly upload your own digitally narrated content to, but I haven't gotten so far as to finish the book so that I can test that part of it for you. Google Play is one of them. Apple Books supposedly, but Apple Books interface is a nightmare. I want to cry every time I try to do something inside of that interface. So all right, Efren's here, Thomas is here, Michael Harris, hello, welcome everybody. We still don't have our authors, so something's wrong. Can you call them, Angela, and see what's going on? Yeah, I can see you. Hold on, I'm going to bring her to stage here.
Yeah, I was just going to turn my camera off so that I can give everyone a call, but there's no emails in the inbox either from any of them. So I'm going to give them a call real quick.
Yeah, it's strange. So there's obviously some sort of a technical glitch because all 4 of them not being on is very strange. So in the meantime, do you guys have any questions that we can talk about while Angela goes and sorts out our the poor folks? They're probably hanging out somewhere and it's not working and they're wondering why it's not working. So yeah, Efren's like, I'll fill in. Sure, you can come on. Efren, I can text you the link in the meantime. So questions. I don't think there's any questions yet, but if you guys have questions, you can go ahead. And in the meantime, you know what we'll do? We'll do an early bird arrival prize. So let me go ahead and share my prize screen. So if you haven't commented yet, now is a great time to go ahead and comment. And am I cloning using AI? Yes, I am cloning using AI. There's 3 different tools that I tested. And there's Be Human, just B, and then Human, Descript, and also, sorry, I'm doing 2 things at once here. Here we go. Descript, and then 11 Labs. And I think, Descript is, I think, a more robust tool, but 11 Labs has now done a lot of updates, and they are, and they now have it really set up for audiobooks. So you have to pay for the higher levels. But when you do that, you are able to really, set your book up and produce it in a pretty high quality. Now, there was some funny glitches. And so again, I shot the video and I walked you through. The video took hours and hours to make because I was doing it while I was creating the video. But anyways, I think it's really cool. And again, you can't really sell it anywhere, but it gives you the option of producing it. And to me, that makes a great launch, launch week giveaway. Hey, you can get my book and it's still in your voice. It still sounds pretty darn good. It's not 100%, but I don't really want my voice to be cloned 100% personally. Close is good enough for me. Okay. So if you haven't already commented, I'm just delaying. I'm going to hit this button and we're going to have an early bird arrival prize while we're waiting for the speakers. So there's 14 of you in here. And here we go. Let's see who our first prize of the day is. Oh, I thought it was going to be Efren again, although Darla wins all the time too. But Darla, congratulations. So we will be giving away a copy of all of our authors' books today, each of the authors that will be joining us today. So you'll get to know them. So you can wait to choose from one of those books. Or of course, we always have our hashtag No Boring Books mug, our Oh So Soft journal, or copies of Self Promote and Succeed, which you can see over on that side, and there we go. Self-publish and succeed. Sorry, this mirrors. It's kind of funny. Okay. And so you can email Angela at team@booklaunchers.com and she will send you whichever prize you choose. And like I said, you can wait until after you've met the authors and seen their books. I see Angela's back, so I'm going to bring her on stage and get an update.
Yeah, so Trent's the first person I called. He is backstage as well. So he said that only you can see him. At least that's what it's showing for him.
I don't see him.
Does it is there something then perhaps that solo layout? Okay, I perhaps will hop off and hop back on and see if that's also the case with the other authors as well. He's just the first one that I called so far, but he says he's here. So it's just he can't, you can't see him, I guess. So
no, so make sure he's using the same link that you used to get in.
He is, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because he's saying the same thing that I was seeing, like that the host can only see you at that point until you put my screen up here. So yeah, let me hop off and then hop back on and see if I see any glitches. So
okay.
I'll be right back.
Cool. Check my permissions. I mean, we've done this so many times, Sue. I don't know what my permissions would be, but we've done this like a lot. I don't know why it would have changed. Let me just make sure. Yeah, it looks like Stan is having the same issue. Okay, this is fun. Always a good time. It does sound like a setting issue, doesn't it? It's very strange, but Angela was able to join. Let me just check the settings. You're right. So this is where I need an Efren. Oh, I was going to send Efren the link. So then Efren can carry the show for me while I'm sorting this out and getting our guests on. Thank you everybody for your patience. And I saw somebody ask about the email for the prize drawing. So that's only if you win. You only need to, oh, there's Stan. So that link worked. So there must have been something wrong with the other link. So here we go. I'll bring Stan on in a second. And so the email, sorry, so many thoughts all at once. Just ground myself. Okay. So the email is team@booklaunchers.com, but you only need to email that if you are selected as a winner. If you email that and you haven't won, Angela will politely reply, but it won't get you a prize. The way to win prizes is just by commenting. And then at various points, we'll say, hey, here's a question or here's something. And then we randomly draw from all the commenters. And then we also will pick somebody's comments at various times too. So that's fantastic. And we will go ahead and bring Stan on. Hello, Stan. It looks like you're in the car. Where are we going?
Hi, Julie. I'm downtown Chicago today.
Do you have your book? Are you going to be able to introduce it and showcase it?
Absolutely. I'm so excited. In fact, I think I can drive and have, yes, I have it. Yay.
Fantastic. So do you want to, since you're the first one that we were able to get on, because we had some sort of a weird technical thing this morning, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and introduce your book to everybody?
Sure, I'd be happy to start. First of all, thank you so much for having me on, and I'm really excited for a fun conversation. So it's very exciting. So my name is Stan Slovin, as Julie mentioned. I am in Chicago, Illinois, and I am a new author. My book, which is called Better Listening. So this is what it looks like: The Secret to Improving Your Professional and Personal Life. So came out in September of last year. And with the amazing help of Book Launchers, we were able to bring out the book. And basically, if you want, I can just briefly just tell what the book is about.
Please do.
One day about 10 years ago, I realized that, the world was kind of busy and everyone's multitasking, and, our attentions were, short, and we're constantly distracted. The world is just full of distractions. And I realized that conversations were starting to really get lost in terms of that we were just cutting each other off all the time. We were constantly thinking about what we wanted to say while other people were talking. We were hijacking conversations, and we were really not letting people, really empty their buckets. We were like listening to respond versus listening to understand. I thought, you know what, boy, we need a book on better listening so that we can create just more impactful conversations, just have more meaningful dialogues, and actually deeper discussions. And I thought that would be a great way to help not only people in the professional world, which is I'm in the professional world for 31 years, but also personal relationships that really just, the cry for being heard more, and just helping people just have a better communication with each other. So that's how I got it.
I love it. Thank you. And since we still have you, we can just keep shining the light on you, if that's okay. And you got lots of congrats in here. There's some people that are very excited that you're in Chicago. And some people are like, why is he in his car?
It's my favorite office. It's my best office, by the way.
Yes. And I'm just thankful you were able to make it work. So thank you. And lots of people are saying congrats on being an author. And then somebody said, may we know what Stan's profession is?
Yes. I've been in the wealth management investment banking for 31 years. So I've been around a lot of relationships, individual investing, corporate investing, institutional investing. And honestly, not just in our industry, but in most professional services industry, it was just so evident that over the years, I just realized that, people were just not great listeners. I think we're all good listeners, because if I didn't say that in the book, no one would buy the book. So we're all good listeners. We could just all be better. And it really also was interesting. And with the help, and I'll share this later with Book Launchers, the marketing of the book afterwards, the title of the book found itself in the leadership category. So there's a lot of leaders that want to be better listeners, more effective, more efficient, and more communicative with their projects and people that they're working with. And then I also realized that better listening also fell into the inspirational, motivational, and then the personal relationships, how to make your relationship better by having better listening skills. So that's kind of like what happened after the book was published.
Fantastic. Thank you. And welcome, Linda and Trent. Sorry for whatever weird little glitch thing's been going on today. Don't know. That's all part of the technology adventure, isn't it? Glad you guys were able to make your way in, though.
Yeah, it's also like writing a book, right? Like it never goes smoothly, right? You just got to figure it out. It's all good.
Exactly. So, well, while you're talking, Trent, if you're okay, I'd love to turn it over to you. Just have you introduce yourself and share a little bit about the book you've written.
Super. Yeah, my name is Trent Romer. I wrote This Is Our Home, and it's a sustainability story to help you start your own eco-friendly journey. And the book is really meant for people who feel like they want to do something in the environmental space, but they feel overwhelmed by the challenges. So the book helps you to think, to act, and to communicate in a more sustainable direction. And the book is not written as a scientific book. It's not really a how-to book. It's written as a story. And the story goes to a small town that's been marred by environmental degradation for 50 years. And that town happens to be my hometown. So it gave me a chance to go back and tell the story of my hometown and the effects of environmental issues, and then some really good findings that come out of that to help people.
Fantastic. Oh, I just completely removed him from stage. There we go.
Go.
Sorry. It was nothing you said. Thank you so much. And Linda, I muted you because your cat was getting talkative, but we'll bring you back on. So would you like to please take a moment and introduce yourself and your book? Oh, can you hear me? Oh,
sure. Thanks, Julie. It's great to see you. And thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. There was
All
there's
right,
a
can you hear me
delay.
now? The cat has left the room. Oh, perfect. All right, my name is Linda Magoon, and I am the author of Live Free and Hike, Finding Grace on 48 Summits. And the title is a nod to the New Hampshire state motto, which is live free and die. And in my case, I used it to title my book to symbolize the fact that I left an abusive relationship very late in life, in my mid-50s, and set a goal to hike these 48 mountains in New Hampshire that are 4,000 feet and higher. So hiking these is kind of a thing like hiking the Pacific Crest Trail or the Appalachian Trail. If you complete your goal, you get a little patch and a little certificate suitable for framing. And after my divorce and found my freedom, I rediscovered my love for hiking and set about to write a book for others who are in a similar situation to learn from what I was doing. Hiking to Heal took on a brand new meaning, though, when I discovered that my husband had been arrested for some pretty unspeakable crimes, some of which he committed while we were still married. So the book is a little bit of memoir, a little bit of self-help, and the Finding Grace on 48 Summits. I'm just going to leave that as a cliffhanger, and you can read all about that.
Great. Thank you. Let's see. Oh, and there's Max just got here too. All right, fantastic. I'm going to bring Max on the stage, and it's perfect timing, Max, because everybody else has introduced themselves and their book. So it's like you arrived just in time, so we could say hello to Max, and please introduce yourself and your book.
Hi, everyone. I'm Max Lewis, the author of Who is Max Lewis? 37 chapters, 37 lessons, 37 million. It's an autobiography on how I basically started a business from scratch, grew it, and ended up selling it for $37 million. All the challenges and obstacles that I had to overcome to achieve that. And the book is written in a way that it's one part my story, another part a practical workbook, as Julie would say, that engages the reader and gets you to kind of work on your own challenges and help you accomplish your own goals in life and in business.
Fantastic. Thank you. We have a couple questions for you guys, and then I have some questions to ask as well. So the question, and I kind of feel like we should just say maybe you'll win the book to find the answer. But Liza said, "Have you been on 48 summits, Linda?"
Why, I have the certificate and patch to prove that I have. So, yes.
And you've got fans of your chair, Max.
Oh, nice. Thank you. Might as well have some fun, right?
Right. I love it. It's very cool. All right. So the first question, and we might as well go in the same order that we introduced ourselves in. So we'll start with Stan, but I want to ask, and anybody watching, you're welcome to ask any questions as well. And we'll have time at the end, but we'll bring them in as they kind of fit with what we're talking about as well. But the question is kind of, what's the best thing you did in the entire process, whether it's something that worked or a problem that you solved in a way that other people watching and listening would benefit from. So Stan, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, sure. Well, first of all, before I even answer, I just want to say congratulations, obviously, to Max and to Trent and to Linda. Book also, but it's great. It's great to be on because it's so fun to share collaboration, with especially new authors. I would say, so what was the most important? What was the key thing? I would say that I learned a lot about myself. I really did. This was a new process. All of us, obviously, today, we've had our successes in areas, and then we wanted to put it down on paper. We wanted to become that author. And I would say that I probably really needed to hone in on understanding that it was a new process. So I had to learn to compromise a little bit more. I had to learn and relearn about patience and understanding, because that was not my world. Writing a book, when you put it in hands, especially with a company like Book Launchers and Julie's team, which was, again, it was phenomenal. You have to learn that that's not your life. That's not what you're used to. That's not your profession and how you handle things. Like Max, how he did it with his business. And so all of the, we have to step back. So that was one big thing, was the patience, the compromising, understanding that it was a new world. And also the last thing was trust. I really had to learn a new area. I'm very trusting, and sometimes that's a good and a challenge. But you have to trust those that were taking you through this process, and the key thing was for them to be able to communicate those steps. I think those were the three big things: trust, communication, patience, and a little bit of just understanding compromise.
Wonderful. Thank you. I love that Linda is drinking from her No Boring Books mug. Trent, I'll turn it over to you now.
Yeah, I think when you sort of begin this process or begin to think about writing a book, you have sort of this mind dump of sorts where you're just writing a lot and you're not quite sure where it's going. And one of the things I picked up early on with Book Launchers and Tim Testa at the time was writing. I started to really look at it's about selection. What actually you include is only up to the author. Now you can have help, and that's where Book Launchers really helped me. But I really began to think about everything that I wrote as selection. I had to select the pieces that made the most sense. And what it really did is started to make me think of myself a little bit more as a sculptor. In other words, I had all the information here, and I just needed to chip away the stuff I didn't want. And then I sort of slowly but surely ended up with the thing that I really did want. And that mindset of selection and sort of learning or thinking about it more as a sculptor than a writer sort of gave me the freedom to write as much as I wanted, but then sort of chip away and realizing that's part of the process. So the Book Launchers team really helped me sort of figure that out, and it gave me a really good direction as I move forward.
Oh, great. Thank you. Yeah, I really like that. Linda, what do you have to share about what you did? I know you've had quite a journey, and I love seeing your pictures.
Thanks, Julie. So I'll share my writing process with your viewers.
Oh, I love
I
it.
think of probably the stool is the actual writing part, where we're in a room by ourselves typing away and the words are flowing. And the second leg of the stool is the publishing end. And the third leg of the stool is the marketing. So you need all of those pieces for the stool to stand up. And what was crucial for my success in the writing process was that I had two amazing critique and accountability partners who helped me get that first draft in such a manner that I could send it off to Book Launchers or content editor and feel good about it. I mean, it was just an amazing experience to finish that first draft. It was almost like childbirth. It was so exciting to type the end. Where Book Launchers came in for me was the second and third legs of the stool, the publishing process and the marketing. I had a publishing contract. I had submitted my manuscript to a publisher. I had a publishing contract in my inbox. And what happened is that I don't know if the owner of the publishing company was having a bad day or I was having a bad day, but when we talked about it, when we connected to talk about it, we just weren't on the same wavelength. I felt that my questions weren't being answered respectfully. I felt this was a relationship in which they were superior and I was almost inferior. And I felt my chest tightening, and I thought, wait a minute, this is what I was married to. I was divorced enough now, and I knew what a controlling relationship looked like. I was like, I'm not signing up for this. And so that's why I signed up for Book Launchers. And the relationship between the author and the Book Launcher staff, your business partners, your They're on the same level. They will walk you through step by step what you need to do to publish and market your book. And you really need those all three legs of that stool in order for your book to be successful and to be out in the world. So I thought of us as partners. We all had the same goal, and there wasn't this like master slave relationship where I was working for them, and that was instrumental to having the book launch.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, I talked to somebody yesterday who he had a publisher 10 years ago, and now he's self-published his book. And we were talking about book marketing, and he was saying that it was weeks after his book was out that he actually realized he could take some of that content and use it to promote the book because he owned the content. And it sounds so funny to people if you've never read the contracts or gotten to that point. But, he said, I was so limited with what I could do with my book because they owned it. And he said, I'm kind of feel like I'm in that bad relationship, even though I self-published this one. He said, I'm harmed from that past experience. He said, I'm trying to undo the things that I was kind of stuck in last time. So he was like, suddenly he's like, I realized I can market with the material in my book. And yeah, it's interesting how a lot of people don't realize how, they don't realize it till after, and you realized it before. So that was I think that was very good to hear. Max, how about you? What's been a lesson or something that's gone really well for you?
Well, that guy had PTSD, right?
Yes, exactly.
So what worked for me in writing the book, and I think that was the question, right? Like what worked for me?
Yeah.
What worked for me was setting apart the time to write and getting isolated. So for me, I have another home in the Keys, and I just isolated myself, like from everyone, from the world, my girlfriend, dogs, everything, just so I could have that complete peace and quiet and not get distracted or thrown off. When you're having a good day writing, you could, speaking for myself, I could write for 10 hours. And when you're having a bad day, you struggle to write for one. Controlling the distractions was huge for me. So creating that isolated environment, turning off my phone, really knowing that no one was going to disturb me was probably one of the best things I did. Another thing I did, which I don't hear a lot of people talking about, maybe they don't do it, but I was really focused on my diet at that time. I actually got in amazing shape writing my book because in the beginning, I started noticing I was eating a lot of junk food. And I said, you know what, I can't keep going down this road. I said, all right, let me create a diet. I got like a really healthy diet plan. I had the food set up on my counter, everything was there. So I couldn't, make any like impulse decisions or order any food. Like I'd cook my food and kind of have it all laid out. And as time would go by, an alarm would go off to remind me to eat. Cause again, you writers know I'll forget to eat, hours would go by, I'd forget to eat. So timer would go off. I'd grab my apple or whatever it is, keep going at it. And I also made sure that I exercised in the mornings so that I didn't feel just, you're sitting in a chair, sitting in front of a computer all day long, 10, 12 hours a day, it could take its toll on your body. So another thing I did was I made sure that I exercised every morning before I began writing. Those were pretty much the main things I did to write my book. Another thing is, what helped? Well, I'll save that for later. I'll save that tip for later. But those are the main ones.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. One thing, I think exercise is something people don't bring up very often, but I also think that when you're stuck, and we often tell people when they get their content edit back as an example, because content edits can be a little jarring for some people to get the feedback. It can feel like you're being judged when really, especially when you're working with us, our editor's goal is for your book to be as good as it possibly can be, so that when it goes out into the world, anybody reading it is not judging it badly, right? They're reading it and getting the benefits from it that you want. But it can feel like personal judgment when it comes back. So we always tell people, go for a walk, go for a run, like go get some exercise, get your body moving, because everything feels different after some work, after some exercise, after you've worked out. So
I used to
I
call
love-
those nature breaks, Julie. Nature breaks.
Nature
After a
breaks.
walk, I'm like, all right, I need a nature break. I go out, walk my lawn or something, and then come back in and get back to it.
Exactly. I like that. I like that. Incorporate nature breaks into your journey as an author, not just in the writing, but in the whole, even when you get your covers, before you make a decision on those, I think it's really important. So that's fantastic. Thank you. I'm going to actually bring one of these questions up here. I think this is a really cool one. And I won't make everybody answer, but if somebody wants to share, what was the one thing that prompted each author to want to write a book? So if you have an answer, you can just hop right in and go ahead.
I'll say that was a question that actually book launchers asked me. It's like when the very beginning. So it's a great question because you think you have a quick answer, but then you have to kind of reflect a little bit and think about. And I gotta tell you, one thing is, we all want to write a book. Okay, everyone wants to write a book, and we know that 99.5% never get the book written. So number one, that was one of my goals, is that I wanted to always be an author. The second thing, which was interesting, is that I felt it gave me a little bit more credibility, not only in my industry, and now I've realized afterwards, even around my friends, my colleagues, my community, if I go on a speaking circuit, if I'm talking, there's that credibility of being an author, being a published writer. And the third one, which was, I think, the most important, is that I did it because I wanted to give back. We're always trying to think of ways to pay forward. And again, I know it's fiction versus nonfiction. Mine obviously is a little bit more of a relationship self-help, but I wanted to do something that I thought could maybe help someone. And I'll share a very fast story. One of the things that we're promoted to do with book launchers, which is incredible, and we'll talk about this later, is getting reviews. And I had a review from a CEO that was flying home and said, "Stan, fun book, loved the better listening, caught a couple tips, blah, blah, blah." And then he goes, "But that's not the review. I was home and I was sitting at the dinner table with my daughter. And she started telling me about some of the problems of work and at school. And I was about to give her parental, I think the word was pontification, when I stopped. I paused. I reflected. I wanted to clarify. I wanted to hear a little bit more. I looked at her and said, 'Tell me, what else is going on?' She goes on for 15 minutes, and I'm about to answer. I said, 'Well, what else?' And she went on and got up from the conversation and finished, gave him a hug and said, 'Dad, thank you for finally listening to me.'" And that hit me, as it wasn't a big company, it wasn't a big conference. It was a father and daughter having a situation that we all have in our relationships, and it hit hard. And just from the book, he took a couple tips and made him a better listener to his daughter that day. So
I love it. And that kind of also, I think, ties to a question I think it was Michael Harris asked about, what's one of the big successes from your book and your experience. And whenever I ask questions like that, very rarely does anybody ever go to the money. It's almost always somebody's life or a review that they got or somebody's life they've impacted with their book. So I love that story. Thank you. Anybody else want to share what prompted you to write your book?
I can say that I never, ever wanted to write a book, honestly. It was never something that I wanted to do. And people kept suggesting that I write a book. And I thought that was interesting. But, I didn't go to college or anything. So I don't know. I just wasn't a great student, let's just say. And when COVID happened and I had nothing to do, I said, let me look into this and let me just try. It's a new challenge. It should be exciting. I've heard that people take a year or 2 years to write a book, 5 years, and that's bullshit. I'm going to do it in 3 months. Boy, was I wrong about that. But it was really fun. And what I learned through that process, in the beginning, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was like, all right, I bought a Dell laptop. I kind of had to teach myself how to type, which took quite a while. And in the beginning, I was like a little confused. I was like writing my story, like, okay, this happened, that happened, whatever. And then maybe around the third chapter, I was like, man, I could provide a lot of value, like Stan was saying. Like there's, you know, there's things you could teach people. There's things that I've experienced that are very natural and come second nature to me because I've experienced it and it's my life. But there's knowledge that you can impart on other people, you know, that could be useful for them, you know, like these parenting tools that this guy picked up. So, you know, that once I realized that, I said, man, there's a lot that I can teach. And it became a really fun for me. And I started taking it very serious.
Great. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to go to my next question for each of you. And since Trent we'll kind of go to Trent next. What is something that you would do different on, and this is actually a fun question for you because this was your second book, right? If I remember
It
correctly.
was,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you do different on book 3?
I want to go back to the previous question. If I could.
Sure.
Is that okay?
Please
Yeah.
go ahead.
So it's funny, you should know these answers. The reason that you started writing, like that should just roll off your tongue. But each time you have to sort of think about it because so much transpires in the interim since you started. And my book is really about my hometown where toxic waste was dumped in a nearby lake from 1952 to 1968. And it killed Nassau Lake and has really put a black mark on the entire area for the last 50 years. It's still not cleaned up. The lake is still silent. And so the environmental degradation part of it is as it was when I was a boy. And I didn't really understand it. And I think I wanted to know more. And I feel like you completely understand something, or you have a much better sense of what something is when you write about it. When I write something down and say, this is really what transpired as far as I can tell, and then have a reaction to that. So I really wanted to fully understand what transpired and what's happening now. And I felt like the best way to do that was to write about it and hopefully help people understand it more and sort of chart a path forward. So that's sort of the reason I wrote this second book. And moving forward, I think writing a third book is something I didn't do in the first two, which could have saved myself a lot of time. I never really wrote a extensive outline, and I realized how important that is. I kind of just started writing and didn't really have a sense of the story I was trying to tell. And I think I would spend much more time on writing that outline. And one of the things that Book Lunchers really helped me think about, and I like writing stories, so it sort of has a beginning, a middle, and an end, is writing to a point. And when you think about 3/4 of the way through the book, usually the story has some kind of climax. And when you figure out what that point is, you can back into that. And I think those two things will really help me moving forward.
Great, thank you. I was worried about Stan there for a second. I heard car horns. All right, Linda, I'll turn it over to you. And if you want to answer why you wrote the book, and also, you know, what you would do on your next book differently, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, so like the others, I enjoy writing. I always wanted to be a writer. And I set out to write this book initially. It was initially meant to be funny about this woman in her mid-50s who goes, you know, hiking. And on one summit, my pants almost get blown off. On another summit, I get lost. And it was meant to be funny. And there are funny parts in it, to be sure. But it definitely took a different turn, as your readers may know. What I would do differently is I like the outlining idea, and I would build all 3 legs of the stool at the same time. So I would be working on the marketing piece at the same time I would be writing my draft, because they really do intertwine. And that's what I plan on doing with my second book. My first book it's about hiking, and you don't have to be a hiker to like it, because there's many other life lessons to be learned. But what I'm finding in my marketing is that hikers like to read stories about other hikers who've died. So if you haven't died or aren't part of a search and rescue, then it's kind of, well, it's, you know, it's okay. I find that my book resonates more with women, especially women who maybe have left or are in abusive relationships, and women in midlife. So my second book is going to be about a true story in the White Mountains where people die. It's a plane crash, and it's a story about survival and about resilience, which resonates with the theme of my current book. So what I would do differently is definitely work on all three legs of the stool at the same time, and not be so laser focused on the draft and say, oh, I've got to sell this thing. Oh, I'd never thought of that before. And outline.
That's great. I mean, that's part of why I started Book Launchers, is so you're not alone. Like, there's so many authors that write a book and then go, oh, okay, my book's done. Now I'm going to sell it. And it's not that you can't do that, but it's that you're not necessarily set up for success with the marketing, and you've missed some pieces. And I tell a lot of people come to us with a finished book and they're like, here, market it. And I'm like, you might not like what we need to do first, because we're probably going to have to take 2 steps back before we can take that step forward into marketing, because you didn't think about marketing before. So, but some authors will be willing to do that, and that works out great. So it's okay if you're that far along. But all right, Stan, what would you do differently on book 2? Oh, and I'll unmute you here. Sorry. There we go.
What would I do differently on book 2? Wow. Well, first of all, even to Linda's point, I like that. I would definitely be thinking about the world after the publishing of the next book. So I will tell you that I think that life begins not really on getting your book published. And again, I view it, I'm very sports oriented, and I kind of think about football all the time, in terms of like the red zone, getting it over that goal line. And I think that that's one of the things that sometimes new authors are focusing on. They're so close, they have the draft, they're in the process, like that, but they're just not getting it over the goal line. It's taking time, and you need help. And this is where, again, our friends from Book Launchers, I think that's how I viewed it, is like they got me over the goal line. They literally got me published. But that really was just the beginning of my journey. That was not my goal only, was to just get published. It was to really figure out how to get that message out. And I think that if I did book number 2, I would realize that you have to have a partnership with your publisher. You can't rely on your publisher only to do your marketing, and you definitely cannot rely on yourself, because you don't have necessarily the expertise. Even if you have 85% of expertise in marketing your own book, there's always that 15 or even 20% that you don't even think about. So for example, podcasts, I don't do a podcast, but I've been on already 7 to 9 podcasts, and I would have never been able to do that unless I would have had avenues. Getting your book on Amazon and different distribution lines, yeah, you could figure it out, you could do research, but you want to. And if I did my second book, or when I do my second book, I think that the process is going to be quicker in terms of after the writing. In fact, that's what I would take away from, if your audience took something away from publishing, that's just part 1. Life begins after that book. And I think that I would do differently is I want to work on how do I get that book out, whether it's podcasts, speaking engagements. Here, I'll give you another one, Book in the Box, where Book Launcher says, hey, do a video of opening your box on the day your book arrives. I thought, oh God, that's so stupid. That's so hokey. That's so corny. That's like probably my most viewed thing on my website. Okay, is everybody seeing the excitement of Stan opening up Better Listening, okay? Because you get to tell this excitement, because people they really do. People love to share in your excitement. They want to share in your journey. The other thing is, think about also your network of friends and your marketing of friends and family who you want to. Book Launchers, and Julie, help me again. What's it called when you're reaching out to your, what's it called? Your war?
Book Army.
Your book army, yeah. That book army, I would go over that video over and over and listen to Julie's video and this team's video, because it gets you out on Facebook and social media, all the different avenues that you're not used to necessarily, because you're a first-time author. You've never really promoted. So that's what I would do differently. I would be thinking about marketing your book army, how to get it out, so that when it does get published, that's the beginning of the fun journey, not the end of the task.
Fantastic. I heard you go, if I write, no, when I write my next book. I heard that.
Well, that's because of you, Julie. That's all because of you.
It is. I mean, I admire those people who can write a book and then like churn them out, right? Like some people just write books constantly. I kind of need a couple-year break in between each of my books, but it seems inevitable once you write one book that there's going to be another one. It's like, it's kind of addicting.
Yeah. And wait, one last note real quickly about book technique. The other thing that I would do differently is sometimes you get caught up on the font or the size of the chapter lettering or the colors or the front cover, the back cover, all those things. And that could like literally put you back, possibly, I mean this, almost a month or 2 months. Sometimes you really need to like let it go and realize that, hey, let your publisher, let Book Launcher help you on the actual framework and the guidelines and the font and the what's it called? The formatting, that's the word. That sometimes really catches people. Don't get hooked on that. In fact, I won't tell the story today, but I got mine solved in literally 1 week. And that's because mine is very similar to Julie's font and typesetting. And I just said, do how she did. What my point is, don't get caught up on getting yourself back on the little details that really stop the process. The bigger picture is, getting it promoted once it's published.
Fantastic. Thank you. Max, what would you do differently on book 2?
Okay. Well, first I'd put less pressure on myself to get it done, because I think I put too much pressure on myself, and I'd have more fun. Because it was really fun, but I'm this type of person that I want to get everything done yesterday. So there was some times where I made it not fun, which is unfortunate, but I kind of learned throughout the process to kind of chill out and have fun with it. So I just going into it, I'd know, have fun with it and don't rush it. Secondly, something that really, really helped me at the end of writing my book is 37 chapters. Some are very short, 1 page, couple pages. But when I got to like chapter 30, 31, I wanted to get it done. I was like tired of writing and I said, you know what, I'm going to try something different. I already knew the story, right? It's my story. So I put the talk to text feature on the laptop. And I said, you know what, I'm going to do an outline of what happens in these chapters. So I just spoke it, and it was a super rough draft. All right, chapter 31. Okay, this happened with this guy. This happened. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, bam. Chapter 32. This happens, that happens. This girl goes here. That guy goes here. I make this money. I sell this. I did that. It probably took me 10 minutes. And the weight off my shoulders was incredible. And it also just really helped me fill in the blank. All right, the book is basically here already, like my rough draft was done, which I didn't have a rough draft. I was just writing the story, which took a very long time because I was very naive in thinking that, once I finished the chapter, it was done and I was never going to go back to it, which is cool. You have editing and, there's always like a million edits that you do, I think, when you finish a book. At least in my case, I've done so many edits. But so just speaking it out was incredible because I had it there already, I used to have this thought when I was writing. I was like, man, if something happens to me, the book is not going to get written. The story's not down, So especially after putting so many months and months into writing it, I was like, I think where a lot of that pressure came from. I was like, it's not done. It's not done. So doing that, speaking to text and having the book like out already, I could relax after that. I was like, okay, cool. It's here. Now I just have to make it make sense and write it better. And, that was extremely fun for me. Another thing that I would do differently is I would give away the first, I don't know how many copies or make it extremely cheap for reviews. I sold my book from day one and I sold a lot of books. I've sold thousands and thousands of books, which is awesome. But I got to Amazon, I got to number 3 on Amazon, which was really good considering the categories that I was in. I'm in like the big categories. I don't put like underwater basket weaving to try to get bestseller. I don't do any of that stuff. So getting into top 3 was huge, but I never made it to number 1. If I would have done underwater basket weaving, I'm guarantee you would have got one. And I think if I would have put the book either very cheap or free for that initial launch, I guarantee you I would have gotten number one. But we were selling the book for like $17.99 or something like that. So it was great, but I was a first-time unknown author. So, you know, trying to get to number one in huge categories, you know, that's what I would have done differently.
Great, thank you. And you actually, while we're talking to you, I think you're the only one here that has done a Spanish translation of your book. Do you have any? I don't know. I'm kind of throwing this one at you just spontaneously, but do you have any kind of tips or thoughts on doing a translation of your book?
Well, so when I started, which by the way we haven't even promoted it yet. We're about to start. We have a Spanish actress or something that's going to promote the book, and hopefully that'll start to take it off. And I'll probably lower the price. Now that we're talking about it, I should make a note of that and give it away or whatever. So at first I said I need a translator, and we started researching translators. I saw it was like $4,000. I was like, dude, that's ridiculous. Put it in Google Translate. Google Translate translated my entire book in 10-15 minutes.
Wow.
It's a 400-page book. So it did the entire translation, but the translation wasn't great. So I kind of went back and had to, I didn't have to, but I did because I'm a perfectionist. I ended up hiring a translator to do it. It took them months, took them like 3 months. But I was much more happy with that result because, you know, Google, you know, it's, some translations were very literal. Some you didn't understand it. They didn't really make much sense. So I did that. It cost me more money, but I don't know if you guys are like me. I mean, you spend so much time, hours and hours and months, years of your life trying to write something. I think you owe it to yourself, to your audience, to just do it the right way, you know? So that was my experience with that. And that book will probably, we've released it, but it hasn't been like promoted at all. We're going to start promoting it soon.
Great, thank you. And the Community Positive Project is asking, excuse me, how long did you work with book launchers before your book was ready to launch?
My book launched. I started with book launchers after it launched. And it was like a breath of fresh air because I did everything myself, which was a lot of pressure. And again, I didn't know what I was doing. So I was like learning, and it was very frustrating because, you know, I was learning. And, you know, like, I don't know about you other authors, but like, for example, I'd write a chapter and let my girlfriend read it, and she'd be like, oh, it's great. And I'd be like, you're just saying that the chapter sucks. I gotta rewrite it, you know. Oh, it's a phenomenal book. I'm like, she's just saying that because she's my girlfriend. But anyway, I had like that kind of experience with all the different hurdles and challenges. And once I found Julie and book launchers, it really took another weight off my shoulders because I felt, okay, I'm dealing with professionals. I'm dealing with people who have done this before. They had the answers to all the questions that I had been asking myself and other people for months on end without getting really any positive results. So it really helped me. Obviously, if I could go back in time, I would have started working with them before. But I actually had already launched my book before I started working with them, and I'm very glad that I started working with them because if not, I don't know where I would be without Julie and the team.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that's sweet. So yeah, so Max is one of those rare beings that was okay going 2 steps back for us to go forward with him, and that allowed us to help him do a lot of things, a lot of great things with his book. One thing you did do, Max, that I thought was phenomenal, that was before you came to us, was you created a really amazing looking box so that when you sent somebody a copy of your book, it looked amazing. Do you have one right there you can show people?
Yeah, this
perfect.
So
I'll put it on
black box, right? And you open it, it's got a letter. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's got a letter that like a cover letter will go out to whoever it's going to. Then it's got these 3 questions that kind of go out through the book, which is what do you want, why do you want it, and what are some of the things you can do to get what you want. Then there's the actual book, which is here, gold. you'll pull this little tab, and then there is this box that has like a little magnetic clip here. You open the book, and it's got
Wow.
my mirror. It's a very expensive book, by the way. It's very expensive. It's got everything's like gold leaf. It's got gold pages. There's a lot of like fancy materials, paper. It's honestly, and I mean, and I picked all this stuff. I think Linda was saying earlier, I'm not sure who was saying it, but like sometimes you get hung up on picking the materials and, this ribbon, what color? I mean, I agonized over what color this ribbon should be. What color black should this be? What color gold should this be? All this stuff took a lot of time and energy out of me. This mirror that I got from China, Bookmark. So yeah, I was saying it took a lot of energy out of me, but everybody I hand this book to tells me the same thing. It's the nicest book I've ever seen in my life. And that's what I was going for. I wanted it to impress people before they even like read the book. They say you can't judge a book by its cover. Well, you're right. But you can gain a lot of interest by having a really nice cover, right? And a really nice subtitle and things like that.
Awesome. So awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you had that handy to show, because I was looking in my office and I went, oh no, it's at home and I'm at the office. But yeah, it's so impressive. And I think that when it is a pricey thing to do. So anything, I always talk about what's your strategy? Like, why are you going to do something? But if you're looking to be, get on big stages, or you're looking for a significant consulting arrangement or a media placement, that thing's going to get noticed and remembered. And that's really important for those kind of, goals and strategies versus a box that shows up, a book that shows up in an envelope and probably got squished in transit, and, the pages come out looking funny. That's not going to be as memorable as something like that. So fantastic. So yeah, go ahead, Max.
I want to show you something real quick. So obviously that book is crazy expensive. And you can't afford to give that or sell that to everyone. But what I did was, so this is the regular print of the book, right? It doesn't have all those fancy features. It's just a nice book. So what I do when I'm gonna personally ship one to someone, I'll just do this. This is a little gold wrapping that I put on it. I don't know if you can see it. And it's nothing crazy, but it just gives a little touch. Sometimes I've received books in the mail and they're just normal to book, and that's fine, but I always like to make things just a little bit more unique, and a little bit more like memorable. So when they get it, I mean, I'm butchering it right now, but it's like this, and this little paper costs, I don't know, a couple cents, something. So whenever I'm personally sending a book to someone, I'll have them wrap it in this, sign it, I'll put the bookmark in it, which is cool. Just to kind of add a little bit something extra, make it a little bit more memorable if I can.
That's great. Thank you. Angela's probably taking notes for all the books that she sends out. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to give everyone that's watching right now a chance to win a copy of each of your books. And so Angela's going to go ahead to help everybody remember who's got what book. She's going to put your website addresses and hopefully your book title in the comments, so you guys can check that out. And then what we want you to do to enter to win is just to say which book you want. And, you don't have to write a book or a paragraph, but just a sentence as to why you want to win that book. And then we're going to pick winners to take home copies of each of these authors' books today. So Angela's going to drop that in the comments any second, and there's a little bit of a delay with the comments. Here we go. So they're starting to come in, so you can check it out, and then you can tell us which book you want to win and why. And we'll do that. We'll pick them in the next 10 minutes. So you've got 10 minutes to put your name, your choice, and your reason in the comments. All right. So next up, what I want to ask is, sorry, I'm just looking at my notes here. Oh, yes. What worked best for your launch or for your marketing to date. So, I mean, we all do, especially because you guys are all working with or have worked with book launchers. There's certain things that we do for everybody, but for certain people, some things work really well and other things are like, okay, let's try the next thing. So what I would love to hear from you is the thing that worked the best for you so far. So Stan, I heard you laughing, so I'm going to put you on the spotlight first.
well, the funniest part is like after like the first 2 weeks, I said, "So how's it going?" Like they're like, "Well, no one is interested in your book." I was like, "What?" Like what? But no, I'm joking. The team actually prepped me for pre-sale. And I think that what worked really well from the marketing standpoint was that we were working together. Again, like I said, this was a book that was trying to get into the industry, into the professional and the personal. So Angela and Roy and Sandy, like everybody on the team really came together and kind of helped me script what I was going to kind of promote, what I was going to communicate, and really I think we took a three-prong approach. One, we were trying to see how we can get in front of live and in person, so book signings. So from a marketing, getting in front of some chambers of commerce and audiences. The second one, which Book Launchers does, again, they're amazing at it. I don't have that professional experience or the skill set, but reaching out to the medias that could read your book, review your book, invite you to be on podcasts. And that's really, I think, what we really learned a lot together in the beginning part was that, one, again, patience, compromise, and being understanding that you're in a new world. It doesn't happen overnight. But over the last 4 or 5 months that I've been doing this with Book Launchers, every month I'm getting signed up for 3 or 4 new podcasts. I'm going in front of new speaking engagements. I'm getting ideas. That was the other thing, and I'll switch this. The ideas that came from Book Launchers, because of their experience or their skill set or what they have seen work and not, really helped me open up my eyes of like what we should be spending our time doing. So, and I forgot Shane, Julie, is that his name? Shane, who
Yep.
was working on the marketing. He's like, listen, let's try to get this out by creating some keywords or focus words that people will see. And I forgot if it's called imprints or algorithms, but 100 to 200,000 hits or touches, and all of a sudden every month we were getting another like 20, 30, 40, 50 books being sold because of things being caught up. So areas that I took advantage of that I never had exposure to was, one, letting Book Launchers utilize their experience. And this is this is the key. If you are an author and you are looking to do signings or speaking, or you want to be on a podcast, or you want to coach, or you want to do meetings in your industry, or you want to reach out, like Trent was saying, to different communities that may be affected, their ability to identify, their ability to target market, and their ability to campaign your book through the right search engines and the right search words and the right the modes of receiving, I think was incredibly very strong. So that was kind of like from a marketing and branding standpoint. And just as a note, moving on even today, I'm only 6 months in, or 5.5, 6 months in, and I will tell you that I'm getting now calls and I'm getting emails asking me, hey, I saw you on this podcast. Would you like to be on our podcast? Or, hey, I have a buddy that runs a podcast on leadership, and I just did one last week in London and leadership. Okay, I don't know about you, but I've never been on an international podcast before in my life before writing this book. And now I've been on 2 internationals because I guess, listening is important also in Europe. I just realized that. And listening is also important in South America. I just realized that. So my point is that, don't limit yourself on just, your little niche. Allow Book Launchers to expand the potential of reaching markets and audiences that you didn't even think about, and work with them, collaborate, give your input, give your feed, let them share. And I think that, you'll see very quickly some great venues to use your marketing and branding.
Thanks,
Did
Dan.
that answer your question or no?
I mean, if I was to summarize, I would say hire Book Launchers. But
No, but does that summarize? I mean,
it was great. You gave a mini masterclass in marketing. So thank you. So Linda, I'm going to turn it over to you next, and I want to note one thing. I don't have the picture. I was trying to find it, but one of my favorite. I have lots of favorite pictures of things that Linda has done, but one of them was my team. We had a booth at the American Library Association, and we had some of our authors come and do signings. And most of the time when you're at the American Library Association and you're an indie, company like us, your authors aren't the people that everybody's like lining up to go see, because they're going to see like a James Patterson equivalent, right? Like, those are the kind of authors that get the lineup. But this picture was like the Linda Magoon lineup of librarians that wanted her book was down the aisle, and it was fantastic. I just loved that. So I'm going to turn it over to you for what has worked best for your marketing.
Yeah, thanks, Julie. By the way, that was all Sarah and Nicole. I had nothing to do with that. But I think I have to echo, I think it was Stan's comments about the pre-launch. I mean, I think that was so important. And I had no idea of the work involved in a pre-launch of getting your book army together, getting your book army poised to not only buy, but to think about reviews, about the Goodreads giveaway. I had no idea about the work that went in with that pre-launch. What made that ALA conference so exciting was that my book launched, I think, a week earlier. And then a week later, my daughter had her first baby. So that was kind of a crazy time in mid-June between the launch, the ALA conference, and being a grandmother. That was pretty cool. But after that honeymoon period, after that bubble of pre-launch and launch, I think what I've learned the most is that I think, Julie, you said to be persistent, but my mantra is you reap what you sow, what you sow, what you sow, what you sow. And so I try to do something every day that has to do with marketing, whether it's posting on social media or reaching out to a library or to a bookstore for a speaking engagement. I try to sow that garden every single day. For me, I like speaking engagements. I don't mind being in front of an audience. Most of the time, you can squeeze a little stipend or get paid for that. That's a bonus. But I really love selling my books at these speaking engagements because it allows for a connection to my audience. People like it when you sign a book. It means something to them. And I also like hearing their stories because there's a reason why they're buying your book. And I just like that opportunity to make a connection. So I don't have a fancy package like Max does, but what I'm doing now for marketing is that for my book talks, I've created a little bookmark, and one side of it is going to have the title, and I have like the 10 hiking essentials for keeping safe, like carrying a map and a compass and a flashlight and matches and that type of thing. And on the other side, I have 10 essentials for healing, and it spells the mnemonic Nature Walk. And it shares some of the things we've talked about today about going for a walk, eating well, asking for help. And there's also a QR code that goes to my website. So if you're at a talk and you're kind of sitting on the fence about the book, well, at least you can take the bookmark with you. And if you decide to buy it later, there's the link to my website. If you don't want to if you don't want to buy the book, that's fine. But at least take a bookmark. And I feel like a part of me is putting out some good into the world in terms of either staying safe in the woods or providing some advice or some tips for some self-help. So try new things, be persistent. You reap what you sow, what you sow, what you sow, and do something that excites you and that you like to do.
Great. Thank you. I really like the bookmark and having the practical tips on it too. That's really cool. It ties into your book and it's something that people will keep around. So that's great. All right, over to Trent, please.
Yeah. So those I don't know how much I can add to what Linda and Stan said. I certainly echo the things that they had mentioned, but I will tell you, and I'll tell the audience that it can feel very overwhelming. The marketing side of it, probably just like most people, we all have families. I have a family of 3 boys. Work full time. My wife works, and I felt like while I wanted the book marketing to take over my life, I kind of knew in my heart of hearts I didn't have the time to do it the way I really would like to. And I really struggled with that. And what Book Launchers sort of helped me do is to say, all right, let's figure out what's important to you and really target on the couple of marketing efforts that would really make sense for you. And what I really came to the conclusion through some question and answers with the book launching team is what's important for me is that the people within the Nassau community, they have a sense of hope that something that transpired 50, 60 years ago, tell them the story, and then offer some hope moving forward. And I think the book does that. So what we did, or I did, is had an event at the Nassau Public Library. It's only a 4-room little old schoolhouse that I went to as a little boy. And we went 2 days after the book actually launched. We had 50 people come. I gave away 50 books. I donated 50 books. And I said to everybody, you can pay whatever you want for the book. All the proceeds will go to the library. So this may be the only time somebody actually pays me $100 for the book. And we raised over $1,500 for the library. So
Wow.
it was a
That's great.
super powerful thing. I think in my own way, I tried to bring the community together to some degree. And when you begin to realize that the Nassau story is a story that's happening all over America, there's 1,300 other sites just like Nassau. They're called Superfund sites in America today. 22% of Americans live within 3 miles of a Superfund site, which is a place that's been environmentally degraded to the point that it gets on a national priority list for cleanup. And most sites just continue to wait for that cleanup. So I've been to 4 other local libraries. So that library theme continues. I typically donate 10 books when I leave the library for them to try and sell for whatever they can to try and raise money for them. So while it's not sort of probably the most entrepreneurial thing to do to try and make money off all your efforts and whatnot, I find it brings me the most joy in doing it. I didn't anticipate this, but it's where I am right now in life in terms of family and work and whatnot, and it brings me joy. So that's my little snippet.
Thanks, Trent. That was fantastic. And there's a lot to be said for doing things that bring you joy. It's not always about, the money or the business outcomes. I think even Max kind of mentioned, like, next time I'm going to make sure I have more fun. I think, focusing on joy and fun in everything we do just makes life better. All right, Max, last but not least, what's been your favorite or most successful marketing technique, tactic, tip that you have to share?
Well, I think there's been 2. One has been the giveaways on like Goodreads. I think a lot of people have gotten the book. For me, again, it's not a business for me really. And the outreach in the beginning was very successful. Like when I told my community, my friends, and like literally smiled and dialed like, hey, I have a book that's coming out. I'd appreciate or it came out. We just launched it. I'd appreciate your support. Pretty much everybody that I called bought the book, which was cool because then when they bought the book, then they would post about the book, put it on their Instagram, put it on their social media, things like that. So those 2 have been like the most effective that I've seen so far. Direct engagement with people that I know or my audience, and then also giveaways are great because people like free stuff. So they're gonna take it.
Right? I mean, we constantly give away free stuff for people to be here
Yeah.
to engage. I mean, part of why we give things away is, it's just fun. It just kind of brings another element, but it is the engagement factor. Because in the early days with our YouTube channel, we didn't give anything away and people were watching. You know, you can see the stats, people were watching, but nobody was commenting. And it's not as fulfilling creating content in the world when people don't respond. So I was like, fine, I'll bribe you to talk to me. All right, thank you. So what we're going to do now is, because I have drank my whole container of water, I need to take a moment. So I'm going to bring Angela, our operations manager, on, and she's been collecting the comments, and she's got prize winners. And then she'll probably have a couple questions that she'll throw it to you guys, and I'll be back before you know it.
Awesome. Hello, guys. I think this is the first time I've gotten to chat. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, you can. Okay, perfect. Well, it's so nice to be here. I've been seeing everything, catching all the comments, and we have some books to give away. So I have posted in the comments, you know, the links, the titles of the book, so that way it's easier for everyone to find them. I've posted them separately as well as in one big comment. I will post them again because we still have a couple books up for grabs, and I don't know if it's because the comments are delayed, but there are a couple books up for grab. But until then, the winner of Stan's book, which Stan's book is Better Listening, is Let Fear Bounce. So Let Fear Bounce, I'm not sure what your actual name is, but that's your handle. And your reasoning was we can all benefit from being able to listen better. And that's so true. So Let Fear Bounce, please email me with your full name and mailing address. And we will get you a copy of Stan's book. So you'll need to email me at team@booklaunchers.com. I will actually put that in the chat right now. There we go. Awesome. The winner of Max's book is Sue Grace. And Sue wrote Max's book, Why? Multi-level books for different audiences rock. So Sue, same thing. Please email me with your mailing address and I will get you a copy of Max's book. So you'll email me at team@booklaunchers.com. And again, like I said, some of the comments I feel are delayed because I still have Trent's book, which Trent's book is This Is Our Home, as well as Linda's book, Live Free and Hike, that are up for grabs. So I will be keeping that open for the time being, and then I will choose winners for that book, for those books, I should say. And I'm looking at, you know, a lot of the questions that came in. I will say, Max, you became extremely popular in the comments by your box. A lot of people were really impressed by that. Let's see if there was another comment that perhaps came in that a few of you guys could answer. So Ping had actually asked, how long did it take each of you guys to complete your book? So Linda, we'll start with you. How long did it take for you to complete your book? Now I should be able to pinpoint you, I think. There we go. Perfect.
Right. So the short answer is, So the short answer is when I went to Book Launchers, I had a manuscript in pretty good shape, and from there to launch, it took about 12 months.
Awesome. Fantastic. Let's see. Oh, I'm figuring this out. Perfect. Trent, what about you? How long was the process for you?
So the book not only goes to my hometown, but it goes to 7 other places. So I visited 3 other Superfund sites to try and get a feel of their stories. So some of their stories are told. One's in Pitcher, Oklahoma, one's in Love Canal, that's Buffalo, New York, and one's in Syracuse, New York. And then I went to 4 places of supernatural beauty, like Yosemite National Park, Acadia National Park, and Rachel Carson Wildlife Preserve, and then the Cape Cod National Seashore. So the book sort of looks at 4 Superfund sites where there's environmental degradation to an extreme, and then 4 places of extreme beauty. And it really compares and contrasts those, and sort of the answers to moving forward are sort of found in these places. So I went to these places. So I started that about 3 years ago. It took me about a year or 2 to finish those trips and write about them. And then took about a year to finish writing and then get it launched. So for me, the whole process from tip to tip was about 3 years.
Awesome. Yeah. And you actually have apparently a semi neighbor in the comments stand. And oh, let me make everyone visible again. Because Kevin Hall said, Trent, loved your comments. I live not far from Love Canal. So that is interesting. Julie, I had been asking them, one of the comments had come in, people were curious how long the process took. So Linda and Trent have answered theirs. So Max or Stan, Max, let's go to you first. You're the first person I see of you two. How long was it for you?
I just wanted to add something before we move on. Anyone who wants my book, just have them reach out to me and I'll ship them a signed copy for free. Anybody who wants. That's not the regular book, nice. Not the fancy one. The regular.
That's awesome. Thanks, Max.
You're welcome. My email, or you can find me on Instagram or Max at whoismaxlewis.com and send me your mailing address and I'll ship it to you. The process, I would say I did about 8 months of solid writing. And then there was the audiobook, which was like 4 months. I didn't read it myself. I had like 100 auditions, found the perfect guy, which I think his voice is phenomenal. And then I directed him as he wrote. He'd send one chapter to me. I'd say, okay, emphasize this word or say this differently. Or, it was a lot. It took, like I said, it took 4 months. But what was cool about that was that as I would listen, I'm like, ooh, I don't like how I wrote that. I could do a better job. I can write that sentence better. I can elaborate better. I could paint a better picture. And then I'd go back, rewrite whatever I didn't like, quickly, not like painstakingly, maybe an hour of just fixing it. And then back and forth, that was 4 months. So it was 8 months of writing, 4 months with the audiobook, so about a year. And then everything else, picking out the packaging, the color, the cover, the papers, the box, all that stuff, probably almost a year. So I'd say the whole project for me, from starting it to publishing it, was 2 years.
Awesome. Yeah.
All right.
And I like that you added the amount of time that it took to write it. And that will vary for every author. But as Trent mentions, with your next book, having an outline can actually help with that. And it can help guide you and provide some context for when you're writing for this chapter or this section, what should you be including? So that's fantastic. And then Stan, what about for you?
Yeah, so I mean, I had been collecting data and really just like putting it in a box for like 6 or 8 years. I never got into a formal writing. But I finally, I spent time in Utah. I went to the mountains. I locked myself up for about 2 weeks with my boxes and all the notes and everything and my computer. And I got a rough draft. I went through the process of finding kind of an editor ghostwriter, because I'm just a horrible writer. I am. But someone who kind of like formatted it at least into a manuscript. And we went back and forth for about 6 months. So I think that the process for me to get it into a manuscript was about 6 months. I then approached Book Launcher from a referral who had used them, and I talked about that. Oh, before that, I got it copywritten. That's one thing for your listeners. For those books that need to be copywritten, make sure you give enough time. Don't be shocked that it could take a month, 2 or 3, because sometimes they're just behind at the Office of Copyright in Washington, D.C. So that was something, that took an extra month and a half. But once I had my manuscript, it was copywritten, it was edited, I brought it to Book Launchers, and that process with them kind of going through fact check and everything, I think it was about 3 months. So I would say it took me a total of a year to get it done. So that was my process.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. Okay.
Wait, can I jump in one more thing? The cover and the back cover. Can I tell you something? This cover is all because of Book Launchers. I had in my mind, I was like, better listening, big red letters, or big black letters. And they're like, Stan, maybe we could come up with something different. No, I want better listening, and I was so stubborn. and really working with the team, not just with like Sarah and Nicole and Angela, but even a call from Julie. And Julie says you may want to listen and you should take your own advice about better listening, and you should maybe let us look at a cover. They came back, and I am telling you, this cover is because of them. It has been so well received, and the positive comments. So sometimes even when you get really entrenched in that writing process, you got to step back and give them a chance to share some of their wisdom and their best practices. That's what I would call it, their best practices. And it was a 1 year process.
Awesome. That's great. And I love that you put that, just because, sometimes it is nice to take a step back, maybe go for a nature break, like Max had said, and be like, okay, let's look at these cover comps again. Let's see which one is best going to work for my reader versus what I might have been thinking in my mind. Okay, well, I do have a couple winners. I had said that there were a couple books still left on the table, and you guys delivered. So the winner of, let me pull it up, Linda's book, which is Live Free and Hike, is Suzanne Riley. She chose Live Free and Hike and she said, it's ideal for me because we have a cabin on the North Country Trail and we love to hike. So that is fantastic. And then Trent's book, I accidentally deleted their name, but Ping Zia. So Ping Zia, you are the winner of Trent's book, which is This Is Our Home. So for Ping and for Suzanne, please do email me at team@booklaunchers.com and I will get you copies of their books. Thank you guys.
All right. Thanks, Angela. I'll put you back in the background now if you prefer. I know that's
I'll go back in timeout. It's okay.
All right. Yeah, she usually on our YouTube lives, Angela doesn't usually have to, she's in the comments and she's working like crazy, but she doesn't usually have to man the show. So thank you for filling in for me for a few minutes, Angela. All right. So I've got one more question for each of these authors, and then we're going to open it up to your questions completely. The last question is something that we never used to ask until people were like, why don't you ever ask this? So now we always ask it, which is, what is your advice for somebody either working with book launchers, because there's actually quite a few clients here in the comments. So what is your advice for them, or your advice for somebody considering working with book launchers? So let's see, we'll start with Trent.
So yeah, that's a good question. And I think about that, and what book launchers sort of really pounded into me was, what are you going to do with the book once it's done? And I think for most of us who started, writing the book, we've talked about this a bunch, is, the book is just a small piece of it. And what can you do with that book? And I think Stan talked about credibility, which is a huge piece of it. I know for me, it led to a TED Talk that I was able to do in Boston 18 months ago, and that added credibility. So these things sort of all stem from that experience in writing the book. And when you write a book, I think you become, whether you want to advertise yourself or not as an expert, I hate that word, but I was convinced I had to use it. But you do know a lot. And I think the experience in writing it allows you to have a lot of knowledge about something, and then what you do with it afterward, because that is coming. And I think book launchers really helps you think about what's going to happen next. And I really appreciate that mindset.
Great. I love to hear that, because that is one thing that we try to do right from the very beginning, which is, think about, first of all, we try to help everybody realize their reader's not everyone. No matter how much some people will insist that their reader is everyone. That's part one. And then part two is to help you figure out what to do with your book so that it helps you in your world and helps the people that you most want to help. So thank you for that. All right. I know, Stan, you have to leave soon, so I will turn it over to you for your answer.
Sure. So first of all, I would clearly set expectations. Number one, that'd be the first thing on my list. Set expectations of what you are trying to accomplish in the time frame that you're trying to accomplish it, and in the big picture. So have big picture expectations and have also your short term. Number two, be clear. Be clear on what you want so that you can communicate that to book launchers. Okay. And also be clear to understand what they want to do to help you. And listen, like again, my book is all about active, reflective listening. But my one little plug for my book is the difference is that it adds empathy. It adds empathy into the art of listening, which means you have to find out what's most important to them to help you, but you have to share with them what is most important to you in working with a publisher. And that's a great question. I would write that down. What is most important to you with regards to a relationship with working with a publisher? And let them hear what's important and go through that and dig deeper so that not only are you optimistic, but then you're realistic. So optimistic is you're writing the book. Realistic is the process of reading, of actually writing that book. Number four, be patient. Be patient, but be proactive. Be patient because you don't know that it takes time and it takes research and it takes a collaboration on book launchers' part to sit and to look what you're trying to achieve. They have to go over that, and it doesn't always come back right away. But you also have to be proactive to make sure that if there's an issue or you have a concern, they need to know that, because if you don't, they won't know. And that's a really good back and forth. And then finally, when you're checking in, remember, it's your book, it's your name, it's your reputation, but it's not all about you. It's about a team effort. And I would say that those are my 4 or 5 areas.
Thank you. I love how prepared you were for that. Yeah, Max is clapping for you too. So thank you.
Very good.
All right. Well, since you are already speaking, Max, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, I would just say trust them. Trust the process. That's what I've done with book launchers. Everything that Stan said was amazing, and just trust them. Trust them. They know what they're doing. So follow their guidance.
Short and sweet and to the point. I love it. Linda, how about you?
Yeah, I would say I echo what everyone else has said, and I think if I were to do it again, I would leverage the foundation library more, go into that a little bit more. And it is a relationship. Again, it's a collaboration between yourself and book launchers. I'm an investigator for my state's environmental agency. And so I researched traditional publishers, independent publishers, everything in between. I researched book launchers, and I just kept going back to book launchers. It just was an ideal fit for me. And, their staff is very dedicated, and I found them very responsive. It was a positive experience for me.
Thank you. Trent, I think you're the last, but absolutely not least. Here we go.
Yeah, well, I did go first, but I also have something to add, so I will add this to it. I think when you're an author, or you consider yourself an author or a writer of some degree, you enjoy learning, and I think I learned a ton by being with book launchers for 18 months. It was almost a class, is the way I looked at it. So I think if you're interested in learning about developmental editing and editing and marketing and everything that goes into writing a book and then getting it out to be published and out into the world, it's a master class in doing it, and I really appreciate it, and I will take that with me, forever. So I'm very thankful for that.
Thank you.
Julie,
Stan, go
can I
ahead.
just ask, Max, can you, I loved your comment about trusting the process. So when you're saying trust, can you talk a little, can you share more about that? Because I love that. I think that was also, and it resonates, but in your situation, what does that mean, trusting the process?
Well, it means a lot. I've communicated with them so frequently. Well, in the past, now I kind of let them take the wheel. But I had my own ideas of how things should maybe necessarily be how I wanted them to be. And through the guidance of the team, they'd just be like, this is the way it's worked in the past. This is, like our proven track record for success. There's certain steps that you need to take, or they're suggesting that you take in order to achieve the outcome that you're after. So, I certainly did it my own way before I found Book Launchers, and I felt it was the right way. And, I didn't fall flat on my face, but, I probably could have achieved a better result, dealing with an expert. And I think that you could say that about anything, when you're dealing with experts, it makes the ride a little bit smoother. So I think, it's good advice in any case to ask an expert or someone who's been down these roads before for their advice and how things should be done in their opinion, and take their guidance, take their advice.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Welcome.
Great. All right. So now it's questions. Angela, I don't know if are there questions that we missed along the way that you want to highlight on the screen? So if you want to just pop it up on the screen, we'll put the question on the screen. And then if you want to answer it, you just go ahead and hop on in and we'll turn it over to you that way. And then we do have one last round of prizes that we will do. So, and it'll be another one of those random with the comments, but I will do that after this next question. So Angela's just going to put it up on the screen, and then we'll go. She gave me the wait 1 minute signal. I do see one here that I'll put while we wait for hers, which is, oh, no, here we go. There it is. That's actually the one I was going to bring up. So how do you manage to disconnect from your everyday chores to center your full attention to writing a book? So not everybody has to answer, but if you have an answer, please jump on in.
So that's kind of what I was alluded to earlier. It's like you control your environment. So for me, it was a little different because I physically left my house, went to another place and said, okay, I'm going to write. I'm going to turn off my phone. I'm just going to write. If you can't do that, maybe find a room in your house, let your family know, or whoever you live with. If you live with someone, hey, it's my writing time. I'm going to go in there for, 3 hours, 5 hours, 2 hours, whatever the time is. Please don't knock on the door. Please don't make any noise. Leave me alone. I'm going to come out eventually. I'm going to come out eventually. I need absolute concentration when I'm in that room. So you're just preparing your environment and the people who are in your environment to allow you to have that time that you're going to need, and eliminate the potential distractions. Unless there's an absolute emergency, don't make any noise. Don't knock on my room. Don't look for me. Leave me alone while I'm writing. Take your food with you, and try to limit bathroom breaks and go to it.
I'm gonna add one thing before I go. And what was the call? The nature break, Max?
The nature break, yeah.
So my one comment, if I was when I'm writing my next book, thank you, Julie. I will definitely tell you is you're gathering information for your books all the time. You're, from the computer, from your notes, from even testimonies from other people or your experiences, you're constantly gathering. I highly recommend a hall pass. So I asked my work and I asked my wife for a hall pass. I went away to the mountains of Utah. You can go to, a local hotel or just, a watering, whatever it is, wherever wherever your Camp David is in your life. And I feel that's that concept of you close that door. I love what Linda said, typing away. I see the papers flying through the room and the Chinese boxes of food, and the candy wrappers all over. But there's that amazing feeling of it's not I need to be alone to write my book. It's that when you are alone and you write your book, you will always remember that experience. You will always remember that experience of having total freedom, of quiet, your own time, to focus, to take the culmination. And when you come out of that room, whether like Max said, and in the house or in the mountains of Utah or wherever it is, when you come out of that room with that manuscript, it is something of not only a great satisfaction, you'll remember that moment when the book comes out and someone says, where did you write that book, or how did that, and that was my experience. I'm gonna hop off. Julie, thank you so much for having me. Linda, Max, Trent, it was awesome sharing with you guys. Congratulations on all your success. And again, I'll offer the same thing. If anyone wants my book, just have them email me, and I'll get out a book for them as well.
Thank you, Stan. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Thank you, book launchers, and thanks to the team of book launchers. Thank you all.
So I'm going to add on this question about finding time to write your book, because for me, my fourth book, I was struggled to finish it. I had my approach had always been to write first thing in the morning, and because it's quieter, I wouldn't check my email. The first hour or two of the day, I would sit down and write, and then I was a mom of a 3 and a 4-year-old, and it was COVID. And it was miserable, right? There was no hour of quiet. Like, it was like he had a radar, and he's like, "Mom's up, I'm going to get up too." And it wasn't going smooth. And there was all kinds of other issues that I was dealing with in the business. And so even when I did have quiet time, I didn't have mental quiet time for the book. And so 3/4 of the way through the book, when I was stalled out, somebody on my team went, "We have writers." And I felt I was like, well, I've always written my own books. I don't need a writer. But it was such a magical thing. So, I turned it over to the writer. The book was 3/4 written, so it was really easy for her to capture the voice. I have a lot of video content. She took scripts from the videos. She interviewed Sarah, our book marketing manager on the team, to fill in some of the blanks, and she interviewed me. And the book was done in a month. So sometimes, there's a lot of benefits to writing your own book. But sometimes it's okay to bring in somebody, because that finally got the darn thing done. You guys probably still wouldn't have Self-Promote and Succeed if you were waiting for me to finish it.
Well, it makes me think, oh, there you go.
Love it. Thanks, Linda.
Julie, I actually considered the title of my book, Writing a Book 20 Minutes at a Time. No, yeah. I did not. But that's the way I felt like, and what Max and Stan were describing is just not something I don't know if I afforded myself or whatever. Everybody's different. It just didn't work for me. So it was always the 5 a.m., so it was 5 to 7, and sometimes it was great, and sometimes it was really bad, and sometimes I was really tired, and it didn't make a lot of sense. But I do envy that idea of, and I think I will take advantage of that. Of my kids are a little older now, so I can sort of take some time, because when you get in that zone, man, you can get so much done. And doing it in small snippets is a challenge, but if that's all you have, you can do it. So.
Thank you. Angela, do you want to pop up the next question? And while we're doing that, I was going to, here we go. So you guys can think about that. I'm going to do the prize because I almost forgot, and I sometimes will forget. So let me pop on over, and this is going to be everybody that has commented so far today. But the only rule is you can't win twice. So if you've already won today, then you're already a winner because you're here getting to chat with these fabulous folks. But okay, here we go. I got to pop on over to my giveaway tool, and that is from before. So we're going to draw again from everybody else that's commented today. And this, you can pick whatever you want. So you can get our traditional #NoBoringBooks mug, our Oh So Soft, Michael Harris, congratulations. You can get our Oh So Soft journal, copy of Self-Promote and Succeed or Self-Publish and Succeed, or you can choose from one of the author's books. So thank you so much, Michael, and congratulations. You just need to email Angela, and I know you know where to find her. Okay. Now, the question, thank you, Kevin Hall. How do you get readers to convert into reviewers on book buying platforms? Well, isn't that a joyous question for all of us? Anybody want to share wisdom on this? Because I'm listening.
I'm listening too. I've had so many. I have a little album in my phone of all the people who have texted me, email, LinkedIn message. Oh my God, they send you pictures of them reading the book and all the stuff. And it's awesome. They're all amazing. I have hundreds. I have probably 300 or 400. You go to my reviews, there's 104. I'm like, leave a review. Like, don't text me. Don't find me on social media. Leave a review. Oh, I just wanted to let you know. Hey, love the book. I'm like, awesome. Thank you so much. Hey, you could do me a huge favor. Could you leave a review? They don't leave a review. They won't. I'm like, why? So I don't know. I have yet to figure that out. It's crazy to me. Crazy. And I meet people all the time. Hey, loved your book. Blah. Did you leave a review? Oh, no. Can you do me a favor and leave one? Absolutely. When I get home, as soon as I get home, doesn't happen. So I don't know. I need to figure that out myself.
Yeah, it's a challenge, and it is something. That's why I'm always telling people, it's the greatest gift you can ever give an author. So everybody watching today, especially when you get the copy of their book, but it is, taking that 2 minutes, and you don't have to write an elaborate review. I encourage you to write more than great book, but you don't have to write an elaborate review. A sentence is great. And it does help. I always tell people, if you're stuck, just say, hey, this book would be a great read for so-and-so, this was my favorite tip. That's one thing you could do. You could even just say, I highly recommend this book. I read it for what reason? And there you go. And it doesn't have to be complex, but it is a challenge for all of us. And, I throw myself in that hat too. I had 12 reviews disappear. And they were legitimate. I don't do anything, and I don't for this exact reason, because I've seen a lot of authors lose reviews because they get, they've done things that aren't necessarily, they're not necessarily bad, but they're against Amazon's terms, i.e. getting friends or family to write reviews. And so I am very careful. I am very careful about where I get my reviews from. And they still removed 12 of my reviews for Self-Promote and Succeed. And some people tried to write reviews and were blocked before they even got to post it. And so it's a journey and it's a challenge. And I think that it is something that we always have to keep doing, because even if you have 100 or 200 reviews, you want to make sure there's some fresh ones too, right? So even after you hit those milestones, you don't want your last review to have been a year ago, because people will look at what's the most recent review and also determine that too. So, I don't know if Linda or Trent have any advice, but part of me is just going to tell you guys, just keep asking, and asking personal, like personally asking is going to get you more than ever mass asking for it.
Yeah. So rather than say, gee, can you leave a review? Because it sounds kind of selfish. So how I couch it is I say, can you leave an honest review that, and by doing so, you'll help other people find the book. And it's a little more outward facing and less icky and less me. And, one coworker said, I'll leave a review. I thought your book was great. I didn't know what you went through. And I had to ask him like 3 times because he just kept forgetting. So just be persistent and say, hey, I'm just following up, not to be a pest. And that's, persistence. And then say, help others find the book, or couch it in a different way than it's self-serving.
There is one very, very small subset that I have found a lot of success with, and that is other authors. So other people who have written a book and they feel the same pain, if you can read their book, I almost feel like I'm 100% on that. Now, that's more of an investment, obviously, because you're reading their book, but there's probably a circle of people that that somebody's probably written a book, and sort of a quid pro quo. It's a place to start.
Yeah, you want to be careful of what looks like to Amazon a review exchange. So,
Gotcha.
So definitely, I find authors are the ones that are most likely to post reviews for you, but you almost need a triangle.
Right.
So like you can review Linda's, and Linda can review Max, and Max can review Trent's.
So if say Linda and I exchanged books, and then I reviewed Linda's in 2 months, and then Linda reviewed mine in 5 months, is the Amazon algorithm that smart to ferret that out and whack them?
Yeah, they're smart enough that they're going to. So this is one of the reasons why we always create separate accounts for our authors to create their Amazon and Goodreads profiles from, because Goodreads is owned by Amazon. And as soon as you create your Goodreads profile, you probably go and attach it to your social media. And as soon as you do all of that, they know who all you're connected to. And while it's never been 100%, there are a lot of very smart people in the publishing industry that are certain that's one of the ways they use to remove it. So if they're able to connect the dots that way, I can assure you they can connect the dots that you read that book and the other one, and she read that book and posted the reviews. That doesn't mean they'll get swept. But
Right.
what I try to avoid is creating anything that's going to basically attract the bot's attention, because there's no humans that are reviewing this. It's all the bots. And the bots then do a sweep. And that's where they remove anything that they can kind of say there could be a violation of our terms. And it's frustrating, but also we have to remember this is what gives reviews value, right? Because if they don't keep reviews clean, nobody's going to put value in the reviews. So it's a trade-off. It's frustrating, especially when they are legitimate reviews that get wiped off. But on the other side, if they didn't do any of this, then the reviews would lose all value. So there's trade-offs. Okay, so what else? What other questions do we have? We have 11 more minutes, and then we're going to wrap this up. Oh, there we go. Max, how much did the translation cost?
Oh, it was like almost $4,000.
Wow. How many words is your book? That'll give people a sense of what.
Around 100K. It's 403 pages.
Yeah, that's about what I would expect. Would be right around that for a good translation.
Yeah.
And then I assume you still put it through editing after that.
I had him do it. It was a Spanish professor. And then I gave the book to 3 Spanish speakers.
Great.
Had them read it and said, hey, get back to me with any notes. And then, then I published.
Fantastic. Okay, wonderful. Well, actually, Angela says that's our last question of the day. So I don't know if anybody has any last thoughts or tips. We answered this. There's a slight delay coming through for us. So somebody else said how many words. So I beat them to it. So what I'll do is to wrap things up, any last words that you want to share. And Angela, if you can also put their websites, each of them, including Stan's, back in the comments too, if you missed it earlier, for people who joined in last minute, because I saw a few people saying, oh, I'm late, I'm sorry, I'll have to watch the replay. So we'll put the websites in there again. But any kind of last tips or words or anything that you want to say to wrap things up? Linda, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I don't have any final comments. I do have a shameless plug, though. Maybe Angela can do this. I'm wondering if we can have a screenshot of the panel today, and then I'll put it on my social media and say, hey, I was part of a prestigious panel, and we can get the word out that way. So can Angela do that? Do we do that?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, we can definitely do that. And then we also will, you can also go in, this is going to be on YouTube. So you can pull whatever captions and screens you want off of the YouTube. We can send it to you as well. And then we'll cut this up and we'll create clips too. So it'll take a month or so to get it all cut up and edited, but we'll send you guys clips too. So we'll make sure you can share it wherever you want, many times over.
My final comment is, anyone who's getting a copy of my book, please leave a review. It's the best gift you can give me as an author.
Exactly. Thank you. And it also, one of the other things that I say is it helps me find great readers to help them with this book. So, I always tell people that, often I'll say, hey, they say, I loved your book. I'm like, great. Can you help me find some other people like you that need help from a book like this by posting a review? So just giving you another strategy. But yes, it is the gift. So everybody here today, you all have a small token to give these authors for their time today, which is a review. All right, Trent, this time, I know you haven't gone yet.
Yeah, there you go. I guess I would say that you started this process of writing for a reason. And I would just remind yourself of that reason when you sort of question yourself a little bit. So just remember that. I kind of do that. I write that down and look at it, and maybe it'll help you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Linda, Max, and Trent, for taking time out of your Saturday to share with everybody here today. And thank you, everybody that joined in. And also a huge thank you to Angela, who gave us her time on a Saturday to help coordinate and organize and fill in for me when I needed my own nature break. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. And if you're watching the replay, you can post comments as well, and we'll respond and get back to you there too. All right. Have a fantastic
Thank you.
weekend, everybody. Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Take care.